All right, everybody, welcome back to HB's Housing Huddle. I have the fabulous Terri Augustyn. Welcome.
Yay! Thanks for having me.
Yeah, super excited. And if you don't know Terri, she is, I don't know, you're kind of a stud.
Well, I don't know about that, but
I don't know.
thanks.
Shelby and I are like, you're like the friend / mentor / investor / Gen X. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of everything.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
touch on Terri a little bit. So you are the CEO, owner of Gen X, right?
It's Genzina,
Genzina,
which is a really weird name,
It
but
is a really
yeah,
weird name.
it's Genzina.
Then you're also a real estate agent,
Yes, I am.
and then you're also an investor.
Yes.
So we got to touch on all of it.
Yeah.
Today because I'm excited. If you're listening today, this one is a little bit different than normal because we really want to talk about the investments of real estate, which I think is a lot of question marks right now. Should you be doing it? How do you do it? You have experience with it. So I kind of want to dig in and get going.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about your business now.
Sure.
So let's talk about Genzina. Why did you start it? What is it about? Go.
Okay, Genzina, I created a couple years ago to help women in the Gen X world invest in real estate, help them diversify.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Cliff Note version. Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, because you and I met a couple of years ago when I was teaching a class in like Frisco, funny enough.
Yeah,
and then come to find out we live like 15 minutes away.
I know.
Marty B's is our favorite place. So if I go to Marty B's, I'm probably seeing Terri there.
Yeah.
But so what was the passion behind that? Like, what was the drive to start that?
Sure. I think our generation, my generation, I'm obviously Gen X. I think as we get older, we are in different life stages. Maybe we're looking towards retirement. And I think my generation, especially women, and I'm because I went through it too. It's hard to talk about finances in a comfortable manner.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just the way we grew up. My parents weren't very open about it, and and I'm not being negative. Yeah. I'm just saying it wasn't something that we spoke about.
Yeah, that was just your experience.
Yeah. And I felt like I wanted to create a space for Gen X women to like really look at their finances and how they diversify. And if I did a little research. Well, I did a lot of research.
You're a researcher.
I'm a research.
If you don't know Terri, she is a researcher.
I'm a research freak.
Yep.
But most women my age, over 20 to 30% was just sitting in their savings.
Wow.
Right?
That's crazy.
It is crazy. And so I'm like, So I work with financial planners too to so if women come to me, you have to first create a strategy because everyone's situation is different.
And everyone wants to know how to get to the top.
Yeah.
But they want to listen to family members or friends and see how they've done it. And that's a great way to hear about it. But you have to set your plan.
Yeah.
I agree with that because the mortgage side is completely the same. Well,
right.
My aunt got this rate.
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, that she did. But your aunt's in a very different situation than what you are.
Right.
It's like you have to customize it to you.
You do.
And okay. So keep going.
Yeah. So so that's how Genzina was born. Women will call me and it's, they might be investing in Florida or they want to do different states.
Yeah.
But there's one main theme here, and it is coming up with a strategy.
Yeah, I agree.
There's so many online courses about, the Burr factor. You do that. They glamorize it, and it's one situation fits all, and that is not the way it works. And from the mortgage world, like you said,
100%.
That is not accurate.
Yep.
So I'm more passive, right, with my investing. There's other people that want to flip and do the Burr method everyone's different. Everyone's financial picture is different. And I'm not a financial person, planner, or anything like that. That's why I have really good people to work with, just like good partners in mortgage. I'm not a mortgage person.
Right.
But it's setting them up first.
Yeah.
Making a plan, strategy to get where they need to be, say 10 years from now. It might be 5 years from now. It might, it depends on their current financial status.
I mean, you're right. It does, and then and the other thing is too. The economy is so different than what it was even 2 years ago,
Yeah,
4 years ago,
100%.
right? So now, I mean, inflation was at an all-time high. There's been a lot of moving pieces that even the people who are experienced in the finance world
Yeah.
have struggled,
Mhm.
because it's like, well, what do you do? How do you prepare for the future? The dollar isn't going as far as it was
Right.
just even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. So now it's like, we had a scenario recently where this lady's sitting in, $500,000 worth of retirement funds, and she was at 1.4 a year and a half ago. And she's like, should I buy a rental property? I said, if anything, look at what your funds have done now. I'm not a financial
Sure.
advisor, but
Yeah.
I was like, let's look at what your funds have done now.
Yeah.
If we maybe invest in something, the money's not disappearing like in the stock market with things changing. So,
Yes.
talk to me a little bit about your experience with real estate. So I know you own a couple properties now.
Yep.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a long-term and short-term rentals.
Correct.
Okay. I love that, because not a lot of people, most people will have one or the other.
Right.
It's like, we only do short-term rentals or we only do long-term rentals. So talk to me about your experience with both. What's long-term rental been? How's that been? How'd you get the property, etc.?
Yeah. So I started investing in my late 20s.
Okay.
Okay. And it was by happenstance. It was like one of those things where I needed a place to live.
Mm.
And then from there realized the potential,
Mm.
the money I made just within a couple years,
Yeah.
the equity and selling it and being able to buy something bigger.
Yeah.
I think that's when I was like, there's something here.
Yeah.
Right. And so currently, just to kind of go back to the different ways of investing. So, you have short term,
Mm-hmm.
you have midterm,
Mm-hmm.
and you have long term.
Yep.
Okay. And there's positives and negatives to everything. And you have
Totally.
flips and all that stuff too. I do not flip
Yeah.
yet. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I don't have time for it.
Everybody's different.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
different markets too.
yeah.
If you live near a market that's a little bit more, well, we live in a market that's very, I wouldn't say high end by any means, but it's well maintained.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of flip opportunities versus maybe
yeah, because you want to build value, right? That's
Totally.
where like you want to buy something that gives it value and you can
It's kind of fast
immediately
cash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Totally agree.
So right now I have one short term that
Okay.
just went up earlier this year in Florida.
Yes, seen it. It's beautiful.
And it's beautiful. It's awesome. I mean, again, that has its positives and negatives with the hurricanes and everything else. So
Yep.
everyone that does invest in those types of areas really needs to look at the numbers because insurance is crazy, right?
It's near water too, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's on Marco Island on a canal.
That's right. So you have flood insurance.
You've
You
got
get the whole
it's
thing.
just and
Yeah.
it was a huge learning experience, right?
I could imagine. I could imagine.
I mean, I'm still we all still learn.
Yeah.
You
Absolutely.
never know everything.
No.
I have a place in Michigan that my mom actually lives in.
Okay. Nice.
It was bank owned.
Okay.
Back in 2015, she needed a place. It was a good opportunity, and I'll tell you what, it's doing well. And when the time comes, God forbid, it was a really good investment, and plus,
Yeah,
it helped her out.
Yeah. I mean,
you
have an investment, plus you're helping family, plus the financial gain of real estate.
It was a win-win.
Totally.
So, and that was probably most exciting. And then we have a long-term one here in the Dallas area, the Denton area.
Yep.
And that's been great.
Yeah.
I
agree.
It's been good.
Why? Well, now Michigan, obviously, family and things like that. But let's talk about like the different market experiences. So like every state's different markets, right? So like let's talk to the viewers here listening, a sense of what they're maybe thinking about investing in. What are things you look for in areas and homes specifically before you purchase?
Yeah. So I only do single family right now.
Okay.
Right? Not that I'm opposed to multifamily. I would love that. So I guess if I can speak to more about the single family,
Absolutely.
when it comes to short term, midterm, long term, right? You
Mhm.
want to look for areas that people are moving into for work.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hospitals are huge,
Yep.
especially for midterm,
Yeah.
traveling nurses, traveling doctors.
Yep.
Um, I haven't done it, but that's something that I'm researching more about because I like the idea. But again, positives and negatives. Midterms, you have to furnish it,
Which is big.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
that's an expense,
Yeah.
right?
But back to areas. But yeah, you look at is it on a busy street?
Mhm.
You have to, we call it the sniff test, right?
Okay. Okay.
And it's like drive around there. Is there retail around there? Is it busy? Is there schools around?
Mm.
Is it a pass through? People are
That's
always
smart,
cutting
man.
through,
Yep. Yep.
and I've made the mistake. So this is from like firsthand experience, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't do that, and it's like, oh my gosh,
Why didn't you think
because
about
you
it?
get excited,
Yeah,
but
it's a beautiful home,
yeah,
but not the right area,
right,
which is definitely a plausible thing.
right,
Yeah.
and again, research, like look at the demographic um, around the area when it comes to you know um, what people are making. Were they moving in from?
Yeah, the area median income's a big piece of
Yeah, the
that.
median
Yeah.
income, right? And so just really look at um, different things like that. So if you wouldn't live there and you wouldn't rent there,
What makes you think somebody else would?
exactly.
That's not. I mean, it's good. It is a really good point. I will say. I mean, I totally agree, and I think from the lending standpoint, it's like we talked about at the beginning. Is everybody's situation is different. What's your plan? And I think what a lot of people miss out on is your first home and your second home are the greatest opportunity for an investment
Yeah,
ever.
yeah,
And people don't realize that. I wish I did it differently
sure.
4 or 5 years ago. I think anybody who's in real estate now would be like, oh, or investing, but I would have totally done this differently. I mean,
Yeah,
there's house hacking with loans or whatever. And it's not, you're using it to your benefits,
yeah,
how they set it up. So, um, talking to your Zenas,
yeah.
was that how I
Gen
said it? Gen
Zena, yeah,
Zena?
you
Yeah,
did it.
Gen Zenas. I'm not at the S.
Yay.
Talking to your Gen Zenas, what is the like are a lot of them, do a lot of them own homes now and then they're wanting to invest in more? Is this maybe a first home for them and they're just now doing that? Like, what's that starting place
Yeah.
for finding that investment?
Well, again, it comes back to see what scenario they're in personally.
Yeah.
I have women that are super successful that are going through a divorce.
Mm,
Women that are more looking, they're about to retire, say 5 years,
yep.
and how can they diversify more to maybe make it sooner?
Yeah. No, man, that's totally fair.
Right.
Yeah.
So and they're in different, or, a lot of other things is, or like I did, we have a lot of parents that are aging.
Mm-hmm.
And either they're going to go into a home, or maybe we look for an alternative place to live to finish out their life.
Yeah. Which is hard. It's hard to say,
And
but it's realistic
it's
to say.
realistic, and we're all
Yeah.
in it. And
Yeah.
baby boomers, it's one of the largest demographics.
And there's a lot of houses that will come back to the market
Yeah.
whenever that generation does start changing.
Yeah.
And I think and it's also, then it becomes the affordability piece. How do you afford that
Right.
now with these home values that have skyrocketed?
Yeah.
I mean, by the hundreds of thousands. And so again, it's the affordability aspect of how do we do that? How do you prepare? And it starts with knowing the right people, and that's what you've built though. You've built a community around you to help guide those to success, which I think that is, from my experience or what my viewpoint is, a lot of people miss that. I think they could do it all on their own. And I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'll be happy to admit it.
Oh yeah.
I'm very good at certain things, but I surround
I think
myself
you're smart.
with. Oh,
So.
well, thank you. I don't know about that, but I think the thing with that is like you have to surround yourself with the others who can build that community to create success, and you have to create success for each individual person.
See, that's the key right there. And it's is yes, building a team
Mm-hmm.
because I stay in my lane,
Yeah,
just like you stay in your lane.
yeah. That's
A
why we work well
financial
together.
planner, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
It's like I
yeah,
don't, so it's building a team for women or men. It doesn't matter.
yeah.
Investors that they're in a space where they're comfortable talking about very personal things.
Yes,
And you deal with it every day, especially in
I
the
do.
mortgage world. And
Yeah,
it's tough, but it's better to lay it out on the table
yeah,
when, especially maybe if you're a single woman or you're getting ready to go through a divorce, lay it on the table. And wouldn't you rather have a goal with that a team helped you put together that you're working towards versus just throwing it up into the air
yeah.
and not knowing and then getting like in worse trouble than you started out with.
I totally agree, and that's like you said. You have to have people around you smarter than you to help guide you to do it.
100%.
And I mean, and that, like you said, you're learning something new every day, and the markets are different too. You
Yes.
know, that's. Do you hold your license in Florida as well for
I'm
real estate?
getting my license in Florida right
Ah, that's
now,
exciting. Okay,
and Michigan
okay,
and Texas, just
nice.
because I have investments in those states,
Okay,
So, um, yeah, I mean, I'm working on it and
it's okay. We can pause there. Hi, honey.
hi.
Okay, so talk about areas. So you look for certain things. Oh, we were talking about the exchange, Denton, Roanoke area.
Oh,
See how comes here.
yes.
So
Yeah.
the exchange is coming. Texas is moving towards. I'm thinking potentially their own currency would be my assumption, which I think would be pretty awesome.
That would be
Not to like
crazy.
brag
That
on
would be
Texas, but
crazy.
shout
Yeah.
out to Texas. And
Yeah.
a lot of people can be political about this or
Yeah. Right.
whatever. But
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we're seeing what the US dollar is doing. It
Yeah.
is decimating right now.
Yes.
And you're seeing China, India, Russia, North Korea, they're all going to a different currency than the US dollar.
Yeah.
Your money's got to, but they're investing in our market.
On at levels I can't even explain.
So take your dollar away, and then I'm going to buy your property.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm,
it's again not to get to political,
no,
but
we're
it's
not
also
getting
like
political,
it's happening right here
but
in front
it's
of us.
not it, and everyone sees it.
Yep.
It's a very hard topic to bring up.
Yep.
In a non-political way, where people are going to get offended. I mean, I could talk about this all day, and it's a tough conversation. I don't think it's a tough conversation,
but it's real.
But it's real. I'm talking black and white,
which is it's frustrating. I don't know. Why do you think it is people won't talk about it? Honestly, I'm gonna just ask you.
I think people with the world today, and with all of the political crap that's been going on, and all the uprisings, and all of the people doing why can't I think of the dang word?
Protesting, canceling,
all
whatever
of that.
You want to call it. Yeah.
No one can have an honest conversation.
Yep.
Because it turns into race. It turns into you're putting other cultures down. You cannot have a conversation.
And I think people think that it's easy. I mean, I'll just say it. I've had the conversation made at me, or the comment made at me, like, you're white, you're privileged. And I was like, first off, yes, I am white, but I wasn't privileged. I grew up extremely poor.
Yeah.
So I was like, we had dollars in our bank account. I remember my dad would go get a Little Caesars pizza.
Oh.
And
that was a big deal.
That was a big deal because we were all trying to split a Little Caesars pizza.
Yeah.
And I was like, and my parents worked hard to maintain for our family, And
Yes.
so it's like, there's nothing privileged. Like, it's earned. Like, you had to work. I had to listen to people. I had to be educated and invest in time. And I think that's where the missing mark is. Like, everyone makes the assumption of what it is. And I was like, there is no assumption. you have to work really hard to have what you create,
Yeah.
and I agree with you. And I think that's where it is happening right in front of us. Look at what happened during COVID. Oil companies started shutting down,
Yes.
and you had massive investors from overseas
Yes.
buying up land by the thousands.
Yes.
And it's happening. It's like, okay, we'll just let it happen.
They had the cash.
Yep. And then our currency is going away. So it's like, I will say, and I hate to say this to all you Californians out there, I'm sorry, but it's like for us Texans, it's what it feels like sometimes.
Well,
Californians are having a lot of equity. The values are very different. They come here, it's a cash difference.
And they can buy a very large home that they wouldn't be able to afford otherwise. And, just like the Seattle market that I worked in for years.
Yep.
Same thing. It's to the point where people that grew up there cannot afford to buy a single family home.
And DFW is starting to become like that.
Yeah, because all the prices just skyrocketed. Microsoft became huge. Amazon.
Yep. Charles
Google
Schwab,
came in.
Fidelity,
Everything.
yeah.
And it brings a lot of different people in. Yes, I get that. But when you bring in money from other countries where they have the cash,
it's a game changer.
It's a game changer.
It's hard to keep up with.
And to be honest, I think that's a demise. It's a demise of a lot of great cities that once were.
I agree. Austin, great example. I mean, Austin's a perfect example of it.
Yeah.
It's like not all areas in Texas are that attractive. I mean, if people don't want to invest in Austin right now, there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of homes in the market in Austin right now because people can't sell.
Right.
So it's like, okay, what do you do? What do you do with the market? But then you have every other market in Texas, or not every other, a lot of other markets in Texas that are very strong.
Yeah.
And with holdings, because the investments that goes into it. So
sure.
For those who are listening, I think the biggest thing that we want you to hear from this is you have to surround yourself with experts.
Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of things. I mean, I reached out to you in several scenarios, even recently. It's like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Am I seeing are you seeing something differently than I am? Like, you need to have the other opinions on it, and you may not like the opinion.
Right.
But that's what makes you better. And I hate to say it, but it's tough. It's like tough love.
It is. It is. Well, and just like I called you the other day, we were talking about DSCR loans, and that's a whole other podcast. But I'm realizing how much more difficult especially for women in certain situations, to get approved for a conventional loan.
Yes. It's becoming harder.
Or to invest in, but that's kind of why you and I always talk. It's like, okay, how can we, and that's why it's so important to have a plan and talk to a financial planner.
Yeah. Yes.
It doesn't happen overnight.
You're 100% right. It doesn't. And it takes years of preparation.
Yeah.
And this is why I tell my first time home buyers every single time, your first home is your greatest opportunity for an investment. And you may not want to. You may not want to have an investment property. That's totally fine. It will not pressure.
Yeah.
It doesn't help or benefit me in any other way. But it's the greatest opportunity for the smallest amount of down payment. And Dave Ramsey talks about other things. I mean, there's a lot of people who have very different opinions on it.
Right.
My opinion on it is cash is king.
Yeah.
So if you want to go buy an investment property now, 20, 25% minimum, right?
Yeah.
You start looking at those things. And it's hard to cash flow long term with rates where they are.
Yeah.
So do you buy it for the long term game? Do you like, what's your opinion? What's your opinion on that right now? Let's talk about current market with what you're experiencing. Do you have to do you look at it as you have to cash flow for the property to make sense?
That's a great question. I think, it depends on what your situation is again, but for instance, the home that we have a long-term, I bought it I know it would grow equity over time.
Yeah. Do you play the long game? I think that's a question. It's like, do you play the long game? I think I do too.
But there's people that are so successful on the short game. Again, it's personal preference and how much time you have to put into it.
And how much risk you're willing to take.
And how much risk you're willing to take.
Yep.
So, and there's things that you can do that you're not actually buying real estate. It's investing in REITs or syndication. There's so many other things. If you can't buy a single family home and you can't buy multifamily, there's other ways to invest in real estate with
Absolutely.
less risk.
Totally. I
So,
agree.
like, again, that's a whole nother podcast, right? But so I think it depends on what your end game is
I
and what
do
your
agree.
situation is. But people that, want quicker, you got to really research the heck out of the market, have a
Hmm.
really good agent, have a really good mortgage broker
That's key.
that researches those markets. Because if you can't add value to a home
Hmm.
and you want to like flip it, well, there's a problem.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
and I think I briefly talked to you about this, and I work with an investment group that helps coach other women investing,
Yeah.
and I'm certified in their program to help these investors, right? And it takes 10 minutes with my spreadsheet to put the numbers down to see if it's going to work.
I think I need to get a copy of the
Oh,
spreadsheet.
I totally.
I now really
I
want to
don't
see this.
charge you. I hand it out all the time
I know. I think
because
it's your
it's like you
experience.
have to go backwards before you go forwards. It's like
Yeah,
numbers don't lie, right?
you're 100% right. Let's just be honest. They don't.
They don't lie. It's
I'm,
black and white.
and I think that's where a lot of people have that missing piece in our
Mhm.
industry is the agent side, the lending side, title side,
Yeah.
financial, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They have the missing piece because it's education. And if you don't know how to, my thing is if you don't um, understand how to educate yourself and
Yeah.
do that research, you got to have the people around. It all go back to the people around you, like this. I
Yeah.
would love to see that because I think we need to do a spinoff of this podcast. So stay tuned for part 2 of this. But because I think the interesting side of it is how do you get started? How do you do this thing? And
Right.
that's what people don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, even buying their first home, they're like, we have no idea where to start.
Sure.
I had to buy our first I've bought and sold homes, but I don't know how to buy my
Yeah.
first investment property. It's like, okay, just sit down and have a conversation because I think you do something similar, but I do something called a discovery call.
Yeah.
The very first call, and it's 15 to 30 minutes of what are your goals? And then I tell them, get a piece of paper, draw a box, and write your goals in that box. And if you can't find a
That's a
way
good
to hit
idea.
those
Yeah.
goals, like we either need to find a way to hit those goals. So it's either now or the future,
Right.
or at least you now have a roadmap of what are you wanting. And then, like you said, I may not know the answer, but you might.
Right.
So, hey, go talk to Terry, go talk
Yeah.
to this financial advisor, go talk to
Yeah.
this attorney, whatever it is. And then now you have the community around you that's supporting you to do the right thing because, you know,
You don't know
I,
what you don't know.
and that's exactly it. And, what's best way to say this? There are some shady freaking people in our world, in our industry.
It's at an all-time high right now.
It is. I will
And
blatantly say it. It's sickening.
and I have people. Oh, I'm going to sign up for this class. It's $10,000 to learn how to invest in real estate.
You don't.
Or they're like, oh, you buy other people's, like the mortgage where you buy.
Yes. Oh.
What do
Wow. You're gonna lose. I'm gonna lose
No,
the
but
wording.
it's
Yes.
causing issues when it
It's,
comes to closing. Like titles, like I'm not closing on that stuff. For you're assuming their mortgage.
there you go. This yes assumptions, and then there's another one that
And there's
I'm.
we'll think of it.
Yeah. Give me a minute. And
Yeah.
I'll think of it. We can keep going.
But yeah,
It's
so
happening all over the place.
it's happening all over the place
Yep.
and online, and it's
It's like the TikTok fad. Like, oh, the guy on TikTok did this.
right.
I can make it work. And it's like,
Right.
okay, there are some scenarios where that might work,
Right.
but it's not every time.
No.
And I will wholeheartedly say it myself. There are very few people that I trust
Yeah.
in our industry. And I will note that it's like when you work with people over and over, not over and over again, but you see a wide variety, for
Sure.
example, and I'll just use title as an example or
Yeah.
agents, you know who does a good job and who
Yeah.
doesn't. Let's just be, and who actually cares about the client and who doesn't.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where others shine.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Does that make sense?
100%. I mean, we deal with it every day. It's, because we don't always get to pick title or the mortgage person that the buy side's using, right?
Yep.
And you see all these different people come and go, and your circle shrinks really quick,
It does.
right?
And then you can even go through transactions with people and be like, ooh, completely different experience than I've had in the past.
Yeah,
And maybe think one thing I mean, people can hide stuff. I mean, even I will say it, I can hide certain things that I don't want people to see,
correct.
and eventually it will come out. But it's how do you develop past that? How do you get past that? How do you work past that?
Right.
And that's where I don't know.
Built like it goes back to what we talked about at the beginning. It's building a solid team. And that's
Totally.
why I can't reiterate that enough to the investors out there, that and women investors, men investors, doesn't matter.
Yep.
Build a team first.
Yep.
Find one person, whether it's you, whether it's me, that you trust, because the odds are they have a really good team that they already have that will help you.
I mean, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I heard a quote. How do you spell the word love? Time. Time.
Hmm.
And I was like, it sat with me. It still says with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're 100% right. Like, how do you have a client feel that love, that appreciation, that trust, that transparency that you're trying to build with them and show them you are trying to help? Like, we're in a sales job.
Right.
Let's just be transparent. We're in a sales job. I could care less about the sale. I can lose a sale. You could not use me for a sale, and I want you to, naturally.
Of course.
But the benefit of it is saying, I want you to know what you're doing is right or wrong, or here is how you let me educate you on what is right or wrong, and then you can make the decision for yourself. And that's it goes back to time. People aren't willing to spend time with others and educate them, and
everyone wants it right now, really quick. But that's kind of the world we live in right now as well.
And that's why the NAR settlement happened.
Yes.
Let's just be honest. I mean, people aren't willing to spend and educate in the time. It's fast buck. Who can make the most money as fast as possible? And it's like, you can work with a loan officer or an agent who closes 200 deals a year. Great. But are they giving you as much time and investment as somebody else who is equivalently as experienced and maybe doesn't do the volume? Just because you don't do the volume doesn't mean that you're not as experienced.
That makes sense.
And now if some people are doing much smaller amounts of deals, they're maybe not gathering that experience. It might be different, but
right.
You don't have to be the biggest producer to know the things that's going on. I will transparently say I don't close 150 loans a year because I don't want to close 150 loans a year. I want to be able to spend time with my family and invest in each client that we can.
Correct.
And I know you're the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I agree. Sorry, I got on a tangent there, but I think that's important, especially when you go through the investment side and you've done it yourself. Let me ask you this question. Have you enjoyed the long-term or the short-term better? Like, which one have you enjoyed the most?
What I loved about the short term, and that's the first one I ever did, but I love being able to decorate too.
Yeah.
And creating a experience.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's
because I think that's part of the reason why the reviews are there, because when they walk in, they have an experience. It's a feel, right?
Yeah, it's like almost telling a new story every time.
It is. And it's bringing, we have a room with tons of bunk beds, and, there's games, and it's creating an experience for families to be together and enjoy time on the water, really.
Yeah, you bring it alive. I mean, I love that. Well, I think we need to because remind me where it is in Florida?
Marco Island.
Okay. So let's put a link in the description on this, and then see, because you're already booked for like next year, right?
It's booked next year all the way up through April.
Wow.
But that's the prime time, right?
I mean, that's pretty awesome. So if you're thinking about needing a family vacation, we'll drop the link in there so people can see it and then get to experience what you've built. I think that's where, sometimes you have to experience it yourself and kind of feel that to also get excited about doing it. So I think it'd be awesome if we get some people there, to see it. And I mean, and the house is gorgeous too.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I think Shelby and I probably need to book it
I
for
think
next year.
so.
So
Yes.
I think, and that's what I love about that's what I love about real estate. It it is a pain in the butt. Let's just be honest.
Oh,
Owning property is
it
not an easy
is.
thing, and you don't have to even
You
have
just never know what's
investments.
going to happen from day to
No, you
day.
don't. But it's also one of those things where there's risk, but there's so much reward.
Absolutely.
And the jokes that go out right now, like the boomers who bought their house in the 70s
Yeah.
for 30 grand, they're selling for 1.5 and dancing, you know.
Yeah.
But it's happening. It's like, well, down the road, I mean, the thing that worries me the most, and I've talked this on the previous episodes, is you have large corporations right now buying up every property they can.
We do. There's still possibilities out there. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to scare people, but they are out there.
Do you think the window's shrinking over the next 10 years for home buyers? I haven't asked that question to anybody, but now I'm just thinking about it.
Nothing like putting me on the spot.
I
No,
mean,
I'm
I
just
don't
joking.
know.
I think the building around here is just like exploding.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I want to put this out there, and I was just listening to another investor focusing on the small towns in America
Mm.
that I think sometimes we overlook because we want to be in the more populated areas.
Yeah.
And I just keep thinking about that. I think there's something to be said about that. That I think that there's some missed opportunities in those smaller markets.
I agree. We have a good friend of ours who owns property in Brownwood, Texas.
Okay, yeah.
I think he owns like 15 properties actually. And it's right next to a plant.
Mm-hmm.
And the plant workers rent the homes out from him.
See, that's like, go back to what you asked me, like what to look for when you
And that's a small town.
It's a small town, but there's industry.
And it's an industry that's never leaving.
Correct. It's probably more of a bedroom town. Like everyone, they live there, they work there, or
Yeah,
if it is a bedroom town, they might commute not so far away, right? They're always coming back. So
I agree.
And that's genius. Just like around if it's a major hospital or
I think the biggest thing with it, it's also recession proof. It's industries that are never leaving.
Correct.
I mean, let's just be honest. Hospitals. I mean, the hospital might go down, but
right.
The odds of that are probably pretty slim. Let's be honest here on that piece too. But with that, it's like when you build around that, like when you start looking at where communities are initially built, it's usually around hospitals, around a major corporation.
Sure.
Like look at Charles Schwab and I think they're considered Roanoke over there off of 114.
I think so.
I mean, look at the communities around. It's blown up. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. But they've built 8,000 jobs there. Where are people going to move to?
Correct.
That, and that's the, I don't know, it's the joys of it has its pain points too. Like where we are, you've seen our neighborhoods, like everyone blew up and I'm like, I'm tired of the construction.
Oh, it's crazy.
Get out. But at the same time, it's like, it's also great seeing a community come to life.
Yeah, it is. But like I said, it's back to your point earlier is research.
Yes. And honestly, I'll be honest with you, I don't even know where to start with research on that. I mean, I know like some, and that's why, that's why I love like, talking the investment side with you. And, we've talked for years now in the sense of what that can look like and the opportunities. And we've talked about teaching classes for investments. And I think there's, people want it. Like they almost feel like they need it. And it's like, there's just not enough people who are willing to spend the time to do it.
It's true.
So, I'll be first to fault on it. It's like I make excuses for family and all those things too, but it's also at the same time, I love it.
Yep.
I know you do too.
Oh, I love it.
So
yeah, definitely classes in the near future.
Oh, I'm excited. So yeah, stay tuned for that too. Yeah. And if you don't follow Terri, we'll tag her stuff on her social media at the bottom because your marketing's great. And Shelby and I always, we're taking branding photos like, how did Terri do it? Get the dog in there. But talk to me, just a little bit about it's like we recently had a deal that closed together. Yes. So, and it was not I wouldn't say it was the smoothest trade. There were some bumps in the road in the
Yeah.
sense of like,
Welcome to real estate,
welcome to
right?
real estate. And we can sit here to this day and do that. So what I kind of want to touch on, and this is a question I usually ask every agent. You've worked with lenders all over the country.
Yes.
So as an agent, what do you look for in a lending team, lending partner, whatever you want to call it? And then, why do you pick certain individuals versus others for the client? Like, what are things that you look for and ask for through that? And a lot of it, number one, everything buddy says is communication.
Sure. I think my biggest, since I've worked with so many mortgage brokers, is being creative,
Mm-hmm.
because you always can get into these really sticky situations because not sometimes, and it's not by their own fault, but maybe they weren't forthcoming on certain situations or whatever. Um, but I, especially with you and Shelby, you guys and Peyton, you guys look at the situation and say, what is the alternative?
Yeah.
Not, sorry, I wipe my hands from it.
Yeah.
Go find somebody else. I can't do anything.
Yeah. Because we had one together that was last December, right before Christmas.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
closed at Christmas Eve, I think, didn't it? Or the day
Right
before
around
Christmas
there.
Eve?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was a cluster.
Yes.
That was.
But and it happens.
Yep.
It's the reality of the world that we work in.
It is.
And you can't get upset about it. You have to, and I love you guys keep a very calm.
Well, thank you. We
You
try.
guys, sometimes you're my calm in my storm.
Well, I appreciate that.
So that's why I like working with y'all, and there's other great ones out there too. But you have very similar ways of doing business.
Yeah. Wow, which is important.
And it's so important, because there, again, are a lot of bad eggs out there, as there is in every industry. I just want to make that note, because sometimes we get agents are jerks or agents are snaky. Well, we all aren't, but there's snaky people in every industry.
There's bad cops out there. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're right. And I will be the first to say, I mean, when I was in retail lending, I knew I wasn't offering the client the best thing that I could, and I still sold it.
Yeah.
And that was hard. I mean, there were a lot of sleepless nights. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, truthfully. And that's why I got out. I mean, and I think that's where.
Well, you learn, right?
Yeah, you do. And you adapt and you try to figure out. I mean, and I will say, like, being a broker, I said this on a podcast. I was on a podcast called Broker to Broker 4 or 5 months ago. And what I said was, I don't need the best rates or products or whatever. I need the best opportunity for the client. Right. So, and I do believe working as a broker now, it's been almost 38 months, is I have the best opportunity for the client out there, and I'm just being transparent. I may not always have the lowest rate. I may not always have the lowest fee. You can search everywhere and find whatever you want to find.
Correct.
But what you will get in the process is you're going to be educated. It will be an aggressive product. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be high or anything like that. It's going to be aggressive, and you're going to be transparent. I know you, when we approve you, you're going to close. There may be some speed bumps that we've got to get through.
Correct.
Like the one we had, it was in a FEMA disaster. No one knew.
That was crazy.
I mean, and
you know what?
It was nuts.
It was nuts, but
we got it closed.
And I think we worked as a team.
Yes.
And my client needed a better rate.
Yes.
You told me what I needed to negotiate to get that buy down.
And you did it. But it took, I tell everybody that real estate's or buying a house is like the 4x1.
Yeah.
It's like passing the baton.
Totally.
You pass the baton to us, we pass it back. You pass it. And it takes the team to get to the finish line, because it's true. I knew from the lending side, from this individual's finances, that he would walk on a house if we didn't fit certain numbers.
Correct.
And he would have on this property if he didn't see something that would work in his budget. And I understand it, because he was a smart individual. And so when we said, hey, Terri, this is what you need, you went and found a way to do that. Right. And I
Yeah.
think that's where the real estate and the lending team working together is so important,
Yeah.
because he may not have got the best, I would say the best, maybe he did get the best deal in the house. You know, I guess you never really know, but he got in a very aggressive deal that fit him.
Yeah.
We wrote the box out together and said, hey, here's his numbers, here's his goals. And we hit that. And I mean, like I said, it's a huge props to you, because we couldn't do anything unless you're negotiating that.
And like I said, it's a team thing, but I like the communication.
100%. 100%.
That's key, and that doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a mortgage broker.
Yep.
You need to coach me on how I need to negotiate the best deal to help you get a product for my client.
Yep.
That they feel good about.
And I totally agree. In the lending side is changing so fast all the time.
Why do you think?
Affordability.
Yeah.
I do. I think it's I think it all goes back to affordability. And there's also fraud. I mean, just being transparent. I mean, we're catching fraud left and right.
It is so scary.
I had somebody literally create a fake bank statement. And the only reason we caught it was because we had another client that had the same bank, a small bank out of nowhere, and they didn't match up. We would have, I mean, we could have been fined a lot of money if we didn't see it. And it's scary. I mean, it's like, it's hard. Like, what do you trust?
I don't even know how I would create a fake bank statement.
These people are nuts. I mean, and then AI is coming into it.
I know.
There's a lot. So
yeah.
I think of the affordability piece. I think the lenders are trying to find a way to get out of this hole from last year. I mean, you know, I think I see it with loan officers. They were on the hot streak in 2020 and 2021.
Oh, they
got into it.
It was like,
I mean, I didn't have to try to make a sell, honestly. It was just, do you want this? Boom, here, sign here, close. I mean, it's
like agents, the same thing.
Yeah, it was not hard at all.
Correct.
I mean, my great grandmother, who was 98, could have sold mortgages in that. And then the rates skyrocketed, and it brought out who was really meant to be in it.
But see, that's the key. But that's the same thing with real estate.
Oh, 100%. That's why I think the NAR settlement's great.
I do too, because, and I just had this conversation with a coworker or a colleague of mine. The good thing, it's going to get rid of a lot of people that don't know what they're doing and aren't putting the time in to learn how to do it
100%.
And survive.
Being a part-time real estate agent just doesn't work.
And
if anybody's out there, I don't judge you. I don't blame you for it.
And
it's just
some people make it work.
Yeah. It's hard to be. I will say this. I could not be a part-time lender. Just being honest. If I was a part-time lender, I would be doing my clients a disservice. And I won't say that about the real estate agent, because I won't say it. But if I was on the lending side doing it part-time, I would be doing my client a disservice.
Do you think it's because you're not in it? So you don't know like all the changes that are going on, all the different products that are going on?
I mean, yeah. I mean, their underwriting guidelines are changing left and right.
I remember you saying that.
It is changing drastically. I mean, I feel like I'm constantly having to double check myself now, where it's like, I mean, there's a lot of scenarios it's still the same, things like that. But there are certain tweaks where that little tweak, if you miss it, you could cost your client thousands of dollars. You know, I mean, earnest money if you get it wrong. And I get why they're tightening up. Debt's at an all-time high.
Sure.
And things are changing. The average credit scores drop. Things are changing. So there's a lot of risk, and they don't want to do a lot of defaulting like 2008 happened.
Yeah. That was a debacle.
And that's the importance of, if I was doing a part-time in this and I was not educated on this like I should have been, and my client was losing thousands and thousands of dollars. And I will even say this, there are really good lenders that are out there, but I will say this, if they're not doing a consistent volume, could also change the game. I just had a client the other day where they were pre-approved for $560,000 with a different lender.
Okay.
And the agent actually had a gut feeling she didn't trust it. Did not trust it. She was like, something just seems off. And the client worked with them in the past. They came to
Yeah.
us, and I said, there is no way. I could barely get them approved for 425. And we had a lower rate than they did, by 0.5%. So it's not like it was like 6.25% and 6%. It was like 6.25% and 575, right? Same thing.
Wow.
And we went through everything, and they would have been under contract on a house. They already had the contract written up. Sellers had already signed. And I did a double check. And I said, I'm telling you, if you do this, you will lose all of your earnest. You are not actually approved. And
how did that happen? So how does that happen?
Gosh, sorry. I keep doing that. It's uneducated lenders.
Okay.
And I went and I looked at her production, and it was an FHA loan, and the guidelines changed on it 90 days ago.
Seeing that
And I
stuff,
told
they're
the
always
client,
changing too.
they are.
The
And I
government
looked, and she had done one FHA loan in the last 24 months. And it's not to speak badly about anybody, but it's like,
Yeah.
if you're not being educated consistently in it and you miss that, it can cost the client a lot of money. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I will say is I have the right team around us. Like, Peyton.
Oh my God, yes,
She is
phenomenal.
one of the smartest girls I've ever met in my life, prior underwriter. And she's constantly checking those guidelines to say, are we doing the right thing?
Yes.
Will we go through? And that's why, knock on wood, we don't have loans get denied.
You won the lottery with Peyton.
We stole Peyton.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, sorry, United Wholesale Mortgage. We stole like one of your best underwriters, but
sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I mean, but it does. It
Yeah.
brings a very effective piece to our business, but it hurts. It either hurts you or benefits you as the agent. Because if you're the one recommending someone and it turns out to be that way, it's a reflection of you.
I am so careful.
I know you are.
So careful of who I recommend. And we're supposed to give 3. I mean, whatever,
Totally.
3.
That's okay.
3 broker is recommended. But I better have 3 really good
people.
Totally. And it's a personality thing as well.
It
right?
is.
Because, buyers, it's very tense. They're nervous. When people get nervous, their true personality comes out. So it could totally change when they're stressed.
Yes, especially clients.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a big purchase.
That's what I mean. The clients, I mean, that's like,
absolutely.
Not us. No.
Not us. We're never stressed.
But yeah, for sure. It's a personality thing. And how you engage with my clients is huge.
I agree with you. And I think that's where it's just important to know who you're working with. It's important to do your due diligence. Reviews matter.
Yeah. I
hate to say it like that, but reviews matter.
They do.
And you can choose to bring it to light or not. But I will say, light turns darkness away very quickly. Sure. So I love that. Well, let's see. I'm trying to think what else. We dug into so much.
We just went from one extreme to the other.
I think
I think that's good though. It's a podcast, right?
Our viewers so far have given us really good feedback on it because they're getting a vast variety of what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear. And, we've had multiple people request someone with investment side, and so we've talked about investing a little bit, but I'm really grateful that you spent time with us to talk about your experiences. So sure. First off, we're going to drop the link below to your social and the house. Yay. So we'll make sure we have that on there. But 2 is if you are looking to buy, sell, invest, Michigan, Florida, Texas, or really anywhere, other state.
I'm helping people all over.
Yeah. I just, like I said, I trust Terri in the sense of I know she's going to give you advice. And if she doesn't know, she will literally go to the ends of the earth to find the right answer. And I don't just say that because you're sitting here. I have seen it.
I'm a little info junkie, but
no, and it's great. You have to have it. And I remember you brought a 3-ring binder to one of our meetings, and it had to have been a couple hundred pages of information. You're like, let me find it with my sticky note, But I'm grateful for you, and I think all of your clients and the people in the community are grateful for you too. And I'm excited to see where Gen Zena continues to go. I've seen you kind of start it small, and it's just kind of
it's starting to grow. I'm excited to see how we expand and start offering classes.
Yes,
the spreadsheets have really been helpful for a lot of people, which I'll send you to. But
Please,
yeah,
yeah,
if
let me see
anybody
them.
wants a spreadsheet that helps them kind of analyze anything,
I know you have that.
I
I know
got
you
them.
have
No.
it. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Terri, hey, pleasure having you on the
Well,
show.
thanks for having me on. It was really fun.
Well, good. I'm excited and thank you for joining us. So, if you have stuck up with us around this long, make sure you hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follow button for future. And thank you for joining us on this episode of HB's Housing Huddle. We'll see you next time.
Bye.